Well, I'm finally back on YouTube, and the surprise in my voice should be matched by everyone seeing me back because finally there's something that has inspired me to get back into reviewing film, TV, and games. And it's a phenomenal 8-part series that you can watch now on Netflix about a character in feudal Japan. And that show is Blue Eye Samurai. Now, Blue Eye Samurai is a phenomenally made animation series about a character called Mizu, who is a female sword fighter that is trying to fight her way through the whole of Japan to get to four white men who are hidden on the island, one of which potentially her father, and she wants to kill them all, which is her life mission. Now, this is a fantastic TV show. It's something that you have to watch as soon as possible. It's something that has been on my to watch list for a very, very long time. It is something that is smart, mature, and it's most definitely violent as well. And this show, as I say, is something you have to watch as soon as possible. It's one of those shows that you start watching, you watch the first episode, you want to watch the next, you want to watch the next, you want to watch the next, because you have to find out what happens as this show progresses from episode to episode. And let me tell you, this show does not disappoint. The more it goes on, the better it gets. And it's something I had on my radar for a long, long time. It came out quite a while ago, a few months, in fact, and it's something that's been on my to watch list on Netflix for some time. But having seen positive reviews, having seen so many positive things that I've gone through online on YouTube, Spotify, various other people saying it's one of the best things they had watched last year and early this year, I have to say it is absolutely worth the time it takes to watch all 8 episodes. Now, as I mentioned, this program is set in feudal Japan. It follows our female lead, Mizu, who is working her way through the whole of Japan to get to four white men who have since been banished by Japan. Japan has shut itself off to the rest of the world, and the animation in this program is absolutely fantastic for all of Mizu's scenes from when she is a very young child, being bullied for being a half breed because she's half white, half Japanese, and has those blue eyes, those slightly rounded eyes that she has to keep hidden from everyone else because she is considered a half breed. Throughout most of the early parts of the series, she wears glasses and a hat to cover her face and her eyes. But as we go through the series and the more things that she has to face and the more things she has to go through, more driven she becomes to face her fears, to face the men she has to kill to fulfill her duty and fulfill the promises that she's made in her past. Mizu starts to shed those things and starts to accept who she is. Now, as I say, Japan has closed itself off to the outside world, but there are four white men that remain on the island of Japan to her knowledge, one of which we follow throughout the series that is locked away in a castle that she has to first find out how to get to, how to get into, and then how to kill the gentleman in question. And the whole series is based around this, but along the way we find and we get to know a number of different characters who become friends, companions, and all of these wonderful people that we meet have side stories that all intertwine with Mizu's as we go along throughout the series. Some of these characters are directly involved with Mizu on a regular basis, some of which will come and go on a regular basis, but some are so important to the series. Specifically, obviously, Ringo is the main one. Ringo, a character who has no hands but wants to do something great with his life, which is an inspirational story that we can all identify with. He doesn't just dwell on the fact that he has a disability and that he doesn't have the opportunity to do everything he wants to do in his life and that he can't have the impact he wants to. He just wants to do something great. And whilst he's not accepted by Mizu straight away, or the other characters like Taigon that we meet throughout the way, Taigon being a male samurai who is thought of to be a very, very high level samurai, someone that Princess Akemi, another main character, wants to marry instead of the shogun's sons, which we'll get to in just a moment. He loses a one-to-one battle to Mizu early in the series, which you'll be able to see in some of the clips that I have put on the back of this video. Mizu defeats him and cuts off his hair, which is a level of embarrassment for him that he spends the whole series trying to find that honor of defeating Mizu in a one-to-one battle. And he's driven by that rage and that need to kill Mizu, defeat them in a battle, and get his honor back. But it develops and it develops, and he realizes that that's maybe not what he needs and that he doesn't necessarily have to be great as a samurai, but he just needs to be great as a man, and he becomes a very close ally of Mizu's. And going back to Ringo, he's a character that develops throughout the series. He becomes a confidant of Mizu's. In one of the later episodes, we see how much she trusts him to be able to help her complete her mission, whether that be to create a new sword, whether that be to help rescue Akemi, rescue the people that she's trying to save as she completes her mission of killing these other characters. Now, whilst this isn't going to be a breakdown episode by episode, one of the things I really want to do is I really want to talk about how this series explores and respects Japanese culture, and the events and representation are appropriate to the time the program is set, not for modern sensibilities. It touches on things like the importance or not the importance of honour, the position that women found themselves in at the time, and the impact that men had on women's lives. And it's the perfect way to represent and write a female character, especially the female lead Mizu. She's absolutely phenomenal throughout this program. The representation of characters from different backgrounds and levels of society, as well as people with disabilities, and it shows the challenges that all of these different people face. We talked about Ringo. Ringo doesn't have any hands. We find out that that's something that he's had to face from birth, but he always has the ambition to do something great with his life. And he finds a way to do that at the end of the series, which again, I'm not going to go into spoilers because it's absolutely worth watching this program to find out what it is. But instead of him being a sympathetic character who we feel sorry for throughout, he's a character that is comic relief, but also saves people's lives at multiple opportunities throughout the series, whether that be for caring for them throughout the series by giving them medicine and making them noodles, or saving people by physically getting involved in altercations. Similarly, we see female characters such as Mizu. Mizu, who is an outcast, she's a half-breed that has had to work her way to becoming this lethal, deadly swordsman throughout her whole life, from a youth where she was an outcast to now where she is one of the most feared warriors in all of Japan. That background obviously coming from nothing to build up to that level of inspiration for other people around her and the whole of Japan, this demon character. Whereas Akemi, the princess, is coming from the highest levels of society, and Akemi wants to do something more than just be married off and do what she's told. But in fact, she's able to rise to all the occasions and rise to all the challenges she has to face. There's betrayal that goes on in her story. There's the impacts that men have by putting her down and putting her in a box. But by the end of the series, again, we see that Akemi overcomes this. And that's the key thing, is we see these journeys. Even Taigen, the male samurai I talked about beforehand, he goes through this fantastic journey of wanting to be this excellent samurai. And that is all he has ambitions for, to be the best samurai, to be the best warrior, the most feared warrior, to marry and to progress his legend. But by the end of the series, he has a different outlook on life. And that is what is so fantastic about all of these characters. But specifically, as I say, female characters, because they have challenges that they have to face and that they have to overcome. And one of the best things about this show is that it takes the time, it takes the care, and it takes the effort, which is clear throughout the series for everything, but specifically in the writing of these characters, to show us how they became what they are and how they arrive where they do by the end. Of course, one of the big problems with modern writing, especially of female characters, is that everyone has everything straight away. They don't face any challenges, and any challenges they do face, they overcome straight away. When you watch this series, have a think about comparing Mizu and everything that she has to go through. In this series, she has fatal wounds that she has to recover from. She is outmatched, she's outmuscled at various points, including the final battle. It's not something that she's able to overcome with ease. It's something that she has to fight through with every power that she can possibly find, with every part of her being. She has to overcome every single challenge. And she does that by, all the stuff that she's had to go through in the past. It shows us the things that she went through as a child, as a young woman, as a training warrior, as someone who spent time in a forge, as someone who was a wife to a husband, who was a daughter to a mother, and as we said, a warrior. Compare that to Rey in the more recent Star Wars movies, a character who, from the get-go, is able to overcome any challenge that they are confronted with absolute ease. They go from movie to movie, from scene to scene, without any problems whatsoever, and you're unable to identify with those sorts of characters. This should be the template for how you write a female lead in any media, be it video game, be it movie, be it TV. A character who goes through challenges, goes through the trials and tribulations of life, whether that is in feudal Japan, whether that's current day. You need to show that representation of What are the challenges that you faced? How did you overcome them? And that is how we can identify with the character. And it's the same for all the other characters as well. You know, we talked about Akemi, a character that comes, she's a princess in feudal Japan. She has everything that she can ever want. That is specifically said to her at one point in the story. But nonetheless, she has things that she wants to achieve. She wants to be more than just that title. And as a result, she goes out of her way to make sure she can be that. And she identifies that the best way to do that is by using the various skills that she has outside of being just beautiful. Outside of being just a woman with power, she uses that power to effect. The same with Ringo. You know, the guy has no hands, but he wants to be a samurai. He wants to do something great with his life. We see the struggles throughout the series, both mentally and physically, that he has to face. And we're able to identify with those characters as a result. So when you're writing characters in the future or you're watching characters in the future, think about the way that they are represented on screen. Are they showing the trials, tribulations, the problems that they have as they're going through their day-to-day life and these big events? If they are like Rey in Star Wars and they're able to overcome everything with great ease, they're able to become literally the best person in the galaxy without any effort, then that is a problem. But when you watch a show like this, where such care, such effort is taken in every aspect of the animation, of the story, of the writing, and the voice acting, which are all to the highest level, the passion will come out of you and you will be able to identify with these characters. I have to say, the way that this explores and respects Japanese culture is something that is just extra on top of all the fantastic writing. As a massive, weird to say, but a massive fan of Japanese culture and Japan in general, I was so thrilled to sit down and watch something that I just wanted to sit down and watch more and more and more. I didn't want to let a minute go by where I wasn't watching this. I've literally watched all 8 episodes in the last 3 or 4 days. And I have to say that all the time I spent with it is absolutely worth it. And as you know, if you've been following me for a little while, I don't give number or grade ratings because I don't believe that you can numerically, generate a rating for something. But this show is in the upper echelon of anything that I've seen over the last 12 months and over the last few years, probably, because this is a phenomenal program that, as I say, I would absolutely recommend to anyone. And one of the best things that this does is it leaves you on a genuine cliffhanger for the next series. One thing that I always hear is, what is your motivation to watch the next thing? When are you going to pick up a series again because you really want to see what happens? Everything we see at the moment, be it something like The Mandalorian, be it something that Marvel are bringing out, the viewership goes down from start to finish. Rings of Power, people that started that series, it had like a 40% drop off from episode 1 to the final episode. And that's because people aren't invested in the story or telling. But something like Blue Eye Samurai absolutely has you hooked from start to finish. And it might not even be the main story, it might not be Mizu's story. You might want to see what happens to Ringo. You might want to see what happens to Akemi, Tiger. You might want to see what's going to happen with the villain, because the villain is such a fantastic character. Even the villainous character has an arc that's separate to Mizu, because there is a right hand man who I won't talk about again in depth because I want you to go and see what happens. But a right hand man who you're not sure, will he, won't he betray him, work with him, do something that he isn't supposed to be doing. So you could focus on something completely separate from Mizu and her journey, just because there is so much in here, and it is a genuinely brilliant show. And as I say, Mizu isn't this faultless character who wins and overcomes every situation. She has to overcome fatal wounds, emotional damage. She doesn't always win her fights. Sometimes she has to retreat, and God forbid, you wouldn't believe it, but a female character in a modern show needs help from other people, and that help sometimes comes from male characters, and it doesn't detract from the show whatsoever. Something that I feel like Hollywood and big showrunners could learn across the world. But like I say, this is something that I would absolutely recommend. I'm back on reviewing things because of this show. This show has inspired me to get back into reviewing because I feel like more people need to see this. This is one of the best things I have watched in a long time, and I hope you will give it the time it absolutely deserves. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you soon.